It's a tradition unlike any other, and no, we're not talking about the Masters. During World War II, when Notre Dame was struggling financially, Navy kept the university afloat by establishing a V-12 training center right here on campus. And ever since then, the Irish have extended an open invitation to the midshipmen to play them in football every year as a repayment of a debt of honor. Despite the lopsidedness of this rivalry in recent years, it remains one of the sport's most sacred. However, I have one question for you fellas today. Do you think the ROTC kids are insecure that we now have real naval cadets on campus? It's Navy Week here on Shamrock Sports.
Right now.
Here we are, folks, live from the second floor of the Duncan Student Center. I'm John Bailey.
I'm JJ Post.
I'm Jacob Irons.
And here we are to discuss the North Carolina game of last week. I know there were a bit of concerns about the defense. JJ, I'll start with you. What were your takeaways from UNC?
Yeah, simple enough. You lose Kyle Hamilton, and you lose a lot of respect from the opposing team's offense. Fact of the matter is, he's a top 5 prospect in the draft. He's probably going to be heading in, top 3, top 5 pick. And when you don't have that presence back there, when you don't have a player with such a hit power, such a force patrolling around, you're going to see now Sam Howell has no fear and just kind of taken off. He cuts out of the pocket. He's not scared of anyone in that secondary because he knows Kyle Hamilton's back there. He runs in for the score. So that's the kind of play that UNC really capitalized off of. Sam Howell was getting out of the pocket, making himself felt in the secondary, and that's the kind of play that Navy with the triple option is going to look to recreate.
And I would love to have Kyle Hamilton on my Detroit Lions next year. We talk about Kayvon Thibodeau, but Hamilton, he's a close second for me. Jake, what about you?
I think it's similar points to JJ. I think the defense got caught slacking. There's no other way around it. They got caught slacking. I think they got pushed around and they let the game come to them. They weren't dictating the pace of play. And John, I'm going to go back to one of your biggest lines when we called WVFI football games. Bend, don't break. They were fully breaking in that game, and it just was a poor showing. However, our wide receivers, Brian Kelly talked about it in his pressers, he needed to start getting wide receivers in the younger guys like Deion Colsey and some of the lower on the depth chart wide receivers. They were coming into the game and they showed a presence and they showed like they were veteran wide receivers, which was necessary when you had Lindsey go out in the second half.
I certainly would say we gave up way too many big plays for my liking, and typically those are not typical of a Marcus Freeman defense. And I want to expand a bit upon the receivers. I like to view things from a positive point of view. As a Detroit sports fan, that's what I got to do with my life. And I was really proud of the emergence of our young talent this game, especially Lorenzo Styles, who I think is making a case to be a true number 1 wide receiver this season, and certainly I think is going to be the number 1 receiver next season. Here we see a big 40-yard reception that really, broke open this possession for Notre Dame. We were down 3 at that time, our first time trailing the entire game, and that gave the offense the confidence it needed, the spark it needed. And of course, Styles would finish, 3 catches, 74 yards, and he's so dangerous in space. He's really a weapon that I think Cone needs to utilize next week against Navy if we want to generate the same type of big play power. Also, a quick shout out to Logan Diggs, 11 carries, 42 yards, and his first, and hopefully with many more to come, rushing touchdown for this Irish. I'm excited to see what he can do in the backfield next year with Chris Tyree. Obviously, I feel like we're all in agreement for the future of this program. We're kind of thinking, Tyler Buckner, Logan Diggs, Lorenzo Styles, what are they going to be able to do next year? Because, as soon as Desmond Ridder was celebrating in the end zone, taunting our student section, we knew the season was a little bit over. But at this point, though, what do we think our expectations are, JJ? What are you looking for? How are we going to finish the season?
Yeah, of course, the playoff dream until we lose the second time is still technically alive. There's a lot of crazy stuff that can happen in college football. You never know. Maybe Auburn beats Alabama in the Iron Bowl. Maybe Cincinnati wins out and ends up getting the respect they deserve. We're looking at you, College Football Playoff Committee. Stuff could happen. Notre Dame could steal a 4 seed. But, I think anyone with a logical brain is not expecting that to happen. I think this team, the realistic expectation is they have the talent to be in the New Year's Six Bowl, and they have the talent to, if they show up, win a New Year's Six Bowl. And like we said, from the start of the season, we kind of expected this to be somewhat of a transition, rebuilding year. And I think if you offered me a 1-loss New Year's Six Bowl win at the start of the year, I would have taken that.
And I think you harped on it. We have young talent that we're showing as this is a rebuilding year. We're putting the blocks down. We're getting the basement and the foundation together. I understand we lost to Cincinnati, yes. But all right, now let's take a step back. Let's go in as construction people and let's go build the foundation. We're building the foundation for next year. Because next year, I feel like we're a very viable team to make a case in the CFP. I think there's no reason why you can't say that with an experienced team with young guys. But however, with 1-loss team, we saw it on Tuesday. The College Football Playoff Committee does not like a 1-loss team.
Unless they're Oregon.
Or
unless they're
no loss
Oregon.
teams, for that matter, to be fair.
Yeah. So unless you're Oregon, then, well, the Pac-12, we're going to talk about that later. But, however, I think you're talking to a team that can go to the New Year's Six and go win. I think this is a team that are piecing the things together at the right time as we're coming down this backstretch.
I certainly agree with all those points. I feel like we have an easy schedule through the rest of the season here, which means, we won't lose. We likely won't lose much footing in the polls, but at the same time, with such an easy schedule, we're likely not to, rise the ranks all that much either. Playoffs are pretty much, impossible at this point, but a New Year's Six, very much in the picture, and I would love to see us take on the Wolverines, It's been far too long since we've played Michigan, and they are looking dangerous this year. I know they played a very talented Michigan State team in East Lansing and came up just short, but man, dude, they got a great running game this year. Cade McNamara is really taking a step forward, and I would love to see Myron Tagovailoa-Amosa pin him in the backfield for a big sack. Oklahoma, too. I think they're another great team that clearly the committee isn't respecting much right now. And same thing, Caleb Williams, the opportunity to take on the Sooners in a big bowl game with everybody watching would be great for recruits and be able to swing us maybe a couple more guys our way as recruiting season starts to heat up. And let's talk about the turnaround, too, guys. So I think the team that started at the beginning this year, the team that played Cincinnati, is not indicative of the team that we have right now. There's been a lot of growth in what has been a big turnaround. We lost 4 starters on the offensive line. We lost many integral defensive starters. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah comes to mind for the most part. Jake, what is your biggest turnaround this year, would you say?
I think we got to talk about Jack Cohn. I think we got to remember, that couple weeks where everybody on campus had their guy. You could ask up to anybody and who's your quarterback and who's your guy? It could have been Drew Pine, it could have been Buckner, or it could have been Cohn. I can safely assure you that I've been on the Cohn train. I just want to tell everybody out there, right? JJ was right there with me, that we were on the Cohn train. This guy's a grad transfer. He's got to know something. So you're on the Cohn train, and I'm firmly believing that Cohn, it wasn't as much an improvement on Jack Cohn as it was on Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees found his new playbook for him. We stopped coaching him like he was Ian Book, like you can see on the screen. Beautiful play, up-tempo, right off to where he throws it is Jack Cohn putting it up for receivers. I think Jack Cohn and Tommy Rees have a connection now, and they are able to put stuff together with this up-tempo team that we're starting to see.
I would certainly say they figured something out, but I think the offensive line has made even bigger strides. Wouldn't you say, JJ?
Absolutely. Cohn has found his tempo, he's found his rhythm, thanks to Tommy Rees, thanks to a little accuracy improvements, but some credit needs to go to the guys in front of him who have really steadied the ship. Exactly. The big boys have come to play in the recent weeks. For the first 4 weeks of the season, against FSU, Toledo, Purdue, Wisconsin, Notre Dame allowed a minimum of 4 sacks in every game. In 2 of those games, they allowed 6 sacks. Last 4 weeks, the maximum they've allowed is 3. And in against UNC, they only allowed 1 sack. So the pocket, Jack Cohn is a pocket passer, and the fact that they're able to create that pocket for him, give him that space to find his receivers downfield, to make the throw downfield, has been huge, and I think that's been a big factor in Jack Cohn kind of slowly but surely over the second half of this season, asserting himself as, yes, I am the guy that Notre Dame brought in to lead the ship this program, and I'm the guy that's going to take this program to a New Year's Six bowl.
Mm-hmm. I echo all those points exactly the same. I think offensive line, when people understand, you can't just throw them out there like receivers, disparate elements coming together from the quarterback. The offensive line needs to work together as one conducive unit, and really the chemistry has been meshing a lot lately. You see that they're communicating a lot more on the line, and Alt, Kristovich, Patterson, Madden, and Lugg have really stood out for me lately. They've been getting downfield, they've been communicating on switches, they've been picking up twists on the different exotic blitz packages the defensive will throw at them, and really I'm ecstatic to see what Blake Fisher and Rocco Spindler can bring to this group next year, too. I don't want to jinx anything, messing up the chemistry they've established right now, but I really am liking what we're seeing right now. They're coming into form right at the end of the season. Back-to-back 100-yard games for Kyron Williams, and a lot of that comes down to the blocking established at the line and getting downfield that second level for the linebackers, too. Like you said, Jack Cohn was sacked only once last game. Hopefully, no sacks this weekend against a very pedestrian Navy pass rush. And really, shout out to Joe Alt. Came on this year as a tight end, was not expecting to be any sort of lineman. But I talked to Mr. Rees, Tommy Rees's father, during the Chicago game, and man, he's really stood out this year. He was one of Rees's guys, and he's really come out. Now let's talk about the highlight plays. This is the moments we're talking about. The SportsCenter top 10, favorite moment of the game. I know you're a Jack Cohn guy. I know you're going to love Cohn. What was your favorite Jack Cohn play of the game, Jake?
Come on. I'm a Jack Cohn lover right now.
Dual threat Jack Cohn.
It's gotta
Mobile
be
quarterback
Cohn
Jack
on
Cohn.
the run. He looked phenomenal. He scrambles out of there. We know Buckner comes in, but Cohn comes on out here and runs in there.
Who is Caleb Williams?
Exactly. He comes in and absolutely does a phenomenal job of going out and getting the touchdown, putting the team on his back like we saw Ian Book do a season ago. This guy took the team, said, all right, put it on the backpack, and he went running, and he laid himself out there no matter what. If he was going to get hit, he was going to go diving for the pylon. So I love the Jack Cohn run.
Yep, made the touchdown play with feet of clay. I'm very impressed with that. JJ, you were impressed with another run by someone who's a little bit typically known for his big runs, Kyron Williams.
Yes, Jack Cohn's love was allotted to Jacob for that segment, so we got to go for a more traditional top 10 play. It's got to be the Kyron Williams run. I mean, look at this. It's a top 10 play, objectively. He goes to the side. He sees there's no path. He heads all the way over to the other sideline. Check out the block by Michael Meyer there. He seals that edge perfectly. That didn't get enough credit. And Kyron Williams, once he's off the races, you can start breaking the tape already because he is gone. It's a 91-yard run. The tarps were flying off in the student section. Notre Dame took a commanding lead. What more could you want to start off the quarter? That was a statement play, and it really set the tempo for, a final quarter of the game where Notre Dame really just dominated the Tar Heels.
Yeah, as much as I love Jack Cohn's unexpected heroics using, his feet for once, I got to agree with you that Kyron Williams was definitely my favorite play of the game, and it's just a testament to what a smart runner he is. He's a very gifted, athletic man, but his ball carrier vision is what stands out to me. He is so patient. You saw he waited for the perfect time to cut back and hit the hole and hit it hard, too. He punched the gas pedal, and he was gone by that point. Obviously, great blocking for Michael Mayer, as you pointed out. The big guys don't get the credit that they deserve on those plays. But really, it's just a testament to Kyron's experience and that he's got what it takes to do it at the next level. And I know it wasn't as flashy, but I still want to shout out Lorenzo Styles for his plays. Makes me excited for the future. This little dump off right there, making a big play, just 5-yard out route, and he's able to get the job done. True number 1 receiver next year. I'm excited. Let's take a look around the league right now. We talked a lot about Notre Dame and UNC. Neither one of those teams are really going to be in the mix for things this year. We thought UNC might. We thought Notre Dame might. Didn't really work out the way we expected. What are we thinking for the game of the week? Clearly, none of us seem to agree with game day. They picked UC in Tulsa, which seems a little audacious given the fact that they just had an hour-long program disrespecting Cincinnati on Sunday. But
that's ESPN's funeral, not mine.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. JJ, let's look at the game with conference championship implications in the ACC.
Yeah, we said UNC's not really in things, but I'm going to go back to Chapel Hill, but not for the Tar Heels. How about the Wake Forest Demon Deacons? The Deeks, have been getting a little respect as a treat from the committee. They were ranked 9th, and this is the kind of game where, we like to talk about the eye test. We like to talk about statement wins, those style points. This is the kind of game where Wake Forest can put them up because this is a UNC team. They're not a top 25 team, and, frankly, if you look at the record, they are literally an average team. But, they are a team that everyone knows has talent, and if Wake Forest can come into Chapel Hill and just show them up and prove that they are a team with Clemson's resume that deserves to be ranked where Clemson would be if they had that resume. Not saying anything, but not 9-0 team needs to be respected. Mm-hmm. And Wake Forest has the chance to go on. I'm not sure if it's a national television game, but it should be a primetime game and go on and show we are a team that's not only in the top 10 but deserves to be moved up in the top 10.
And Jake, I know you're looking at a bit of a shakeup potentially in the SEC this week.
Correct. I'm looking at it. Auburn and Texas A&M. These are two teams that have already played Disruptor once. So now when you have Disruptor A and Disruptor B come together, it can only mean Disruptor C. So we're doing a little Pythagorean theorem here on Shamrock Sports. But it just makes sense. I think both these teams have the capability to go take down Alabama, or even, may I say, Georgia, if Georgia falters on a game. I know, I'm taking a deep one down.
All right.
I like it.
I think these teams, on any given day, that's the beauty of sports. That's why we sit here and talk about
Any given
sports.
Sunday.
Any given Sunday,
Saturday.
anything or Saturday can happen. I think that's
It
what
just means more.
It just means more. That's why we sit here and we talk about sports. Anything can happen, but these are two teams that can play some really big disruptors in the SEC, which can ultimately have implications way down the road, not just this season, but I also think next season.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I'm going to be staying in Texas for this one, but too much Power 5 for me. Let's go group of 5. Give me UTSA versus UTEP this weekend, man. I love the Roadrunners, and I cannot believe how much they were cheated by the committee this weekend. 16 in the AP poll, unranked. in the college football playoff poll. Their defense is absolutely ferocious. They have one of the best front sevens in all of the country, and the level of competition doesn't mean anything to me. They get sacks. They've got a great secondary. Shout out to Dadrian Taylor for the pick six right there. He's such a ball hawk and really a danger to pick anything off if it's in his general vicinity. I really want to shout out Rashad Wisdom and Trevor Harmonson, too. They are basically the vacuum cleaners of that defense. Great run defense, and I expect that it'll be a close game, but I got the Roadrunners, and I think that should be enough, beating the number 2 team in Conference USA, to elevate them to finally getting the top 25. Meep, meep, all the way. Go Roadrunners, baby. And we talked a bit about our distaste for the college football rankings so far. Let's take a little time to vent and unload, gentlemen. JJ, I'll start with you. Some of your opening thoughts?
Yeah, all right. Let me find the camera. So we've talked a lot about disrespecting Cincinnati, and I'm going to go right back to it because it deserves to keep on being said. Cincinnati is a top 4 team, and they need to be treated as such. We're going to either need to get a committee that can respect an undefeated Group of 5 team, or we need to find a new system that can get the Group of 5 team in. You know what team doesn't have a top 10 road win? Alabama. Or, for that matter, any team but Oregon in the top 6. Cincinnati has done everything that the media, that theoretically the committee has set out for them as goals they need to achieve to make the playoff. And they just are not getting the respect they deserve. They're getting put 6 behind Ohio State, who lost to Oregon. Oregon, who lost to, I see a lot of, justification like, oh, well, they got played close by Navy. Well, you know who got the Oregon played close to? Stanford, and they lost. So, there's a difference between playing a game close and losing a game. And, Stanford also played close to, Oregon also played close to Cal, who is 1-5. So, I don't want to hear anything about coming close to losing. And, also Alabama, I got to give a shout out to them because I think we all know Alabama's a talented team. So I'm not going to try to go full disrespecting them. But really, the 2 seed, it feels like the committee is just trying to set up Alabama to make it in after they lose the SEC championship to Georgia, and I hate that. And it feels like going lower in the rankings, they're trying to set up Cincinnati to rank lower by not ranking Houston and SMU because they're not trying to give Cincinnati any ranked wins.
I think you're exactly right, JJ. I think we're at an impasse here for college football. We're done with the SEC and we're done with the Power 5 coming in and dictating the tournament. And do we have a Pac-12 that I could say that? Could we say a group of 6 instead of a group of 5? Because I'm not convinced out of anything out of the Pac-12 over this past couple of years, and especially Oregon. Oregon, I understand they beat OSU and it's this big run, but they lose to Stanford, and I don't think this is a Stanford team that, like you talked about, I don't see how they're any better than what some other teams are. They're average football teams that if you're going to be in the top 4, you have to beat them. You have to beat them clearly. I don't know how you else can rank them. It's just, I think the college football playoff need to eliminate the idea of the Power 5 and the Group of 5 and just realize that every football team on any given Saturday can put up a phenomenal performance, which dictates why they should get into the playoffs. It's just a commonality. I really do think that everybody should be on the same even playing field. Just because you're in a lower conference means nothing. I firmly attest.
You can only beat what's in front of you.
Exactly.
The methodology of the College Football Playoff Committee is incredibly flawed and inconsistent. All they care about is the money, and it's very hard to trust their intentions. Giving all the power in college football to a 12 unaccountable athletic oligarchs with undeniable conflicts of interest is going to be the death of this sport. And you can bank on that right now. Bring back the BCS, because I guarantee you, if we expanded the playoff to 6 teams, as everybody wanted to do, they'd find a way to make Cincinnati the 8th ranked team, because that's not going to draw in money. That's not going to draw in viewers. I'm putting on the tinfoil hat right now. The ranking Oklahoma number 8, because Oklahoma's usually the darling. It's like, oh, you play in the Big 12, but you put up points and you're fun. Go get beat up by Alabama again. They were number 8 this year as a bit of a message saying, shame on you for leaving the Big 12 and going to the SEC. You're going to be number 8 and you're going to like it. And I just feel like there's so many ulterior motives in this that we can't trust this group of athletic directors to accurately represent the true nature of the best teams in college football. And I think this is also shown in the fact that they didn't rank SMU or Houston, and thereby guaranteeing Cincinnati will have 2 less ranked wins no matter what happens. And we talked about Wake Forest too. If they had Clemson resume, they would be number 2 right now. And the eye test, that is just their excuse to do whatever they want. I just don't know what to do at this point right now, because when it was the BCS, everybody complained. When it's a more human aspect, as with March Madness, people are complaining. And it's really just a mess, and a shame that college football, such a sacred tradition with amateur sports, is coming down to just a money grab from the elites up in, Georgia and the rest of those.
And I think
the eye test has just become code word for big blood bias. Like,
exactly.
Come on.
And then I think you also need to start talking about is like, we need to expand the playoffs. Like, there's a necessary reason to. All right, so great. We have the humanality of the CFP, great. But then let's allow for upsets to happen. We're not allowing upsets to happen, and I think we need to expand the playoffs for that to be said.
Yep, it's certainly a bit of dire straits the sport is in right now, especially with the centralization of all the best recruits to the teams that make the playoffs every year, making everybody else a little less competitive. But I will just say, Oregon, trash. Anthony Brown, trash. Travis Dye is not that guy. He's no CJ Verdell. Ducks are going to get blown out by 70 if they play the Bulldogs. I'm just saying that right now. And now a bit of a fun segue to Navy. So, Jake, you're a little bit concerned this week about the triple option.
I am. I think any respectable Fighting Irish fan needs to be concerned. We're talking about a Sam Howell that rushed 117 yards.
Sneaky quick Sam Howell.
Sneaky quick Sam Howell.
Deceptive speed, one might say.
And like I was talking to a bunch of my roommates, that was a two-option. That was a two-option system. We're now talking about three options. That's another. Let's do 2 + 1 = 3.
This is what the tuition goes to, guys.
I know, right? Woo. We're talking about this. So I think another option is a really big factor to something that could play that we couldn't stop. Like I talked about in the open, the defense just let UNC come to them. And I think if the same thing could happen against Navy. If they just let Navy run to them, they're going to get backed up in the red zone, and then we're going to have to settle for a bunch of field goals. I think that's something to talk about.
No, you're pretty concerned about the triple option as well.
Yeah, I don't like playing the triple. Does anyone like playing the triple option here?
I don't think so. Cincinnati didn't like it.
Cincinnati doesn't like it. Wisconsin didn't like it when they played Army. It's just a frustrating system to play against. Let's put the cards on the table here. They got so many different looks they can throw at you, so many different guys. They got, I believe they have 3 fullbacks who all have like high rushing stats. They got a quarterback in Ty Levadi who can, run the ball as well. It's a big week for Marcus Freeman because, for a defense coordinator, preparation is everything. And this is a game he's going to have to prepare his best for because it's not your standard offense. It's not the, I'm sure no one would, doubt that UNC or USC all have more talented teams than Navy. But both of those teams run, fairly conventional, good quarterbacks, good talented receivers. You know what you're getting. You've played those teams before. You've played Cincinnati, you've played Wisconsin. You can get ready for those games. With Navy, it's a team that you haven't, you don't have a blueprint for. You don't have a game you've played this season where you can go back to and say, yeah, we faced off against this and we know how to stop it. You need to come up with a new game plan. You need to come up with a new idea and a new, system for trying to stop an offense that is predicated on, giving you surprises, giving you a different look at runner. You can give you a different option, as the triple option says. And it's a game plan that really can throw a lot of scary looks at this Notre Dame team. And I think if you're Marcus Freeman, this is the kind of game where you really show just how good of a coordinator you are. You show why you got the big bucks from Cincinnati to run this defense because of the game where you're going to need to make a lot of good calls and you're going to need to make a lot of good preparation.
I'll tell you what. I am not worried about Navy. But what I am worried about...
Bold take.
Clip that one.
Is the implications of this Navy game for next week against Virginia right here. I'm telling you, scheming against the triple option is detrimental to prep work for future weeks right now. And, back from my playing days, whenever we would take on the Canton Chiefs, they would run the triple option offense, and we would always struggle the week after because we would have to revert back to our normal defense.
Do we have any Canton Chiefs highlights?
I don't know if we do, but I'll be sure to look at the huddle count for that. But to go from a team that is last in the country in Navy in passing yards per game to Virginia, who is one of the most elite passing teams in the country, led by Brendan Armstrong, who has an absolute cannon of an arm. He's going to torch the secondary if they get too caught up on preventing the triple option this week. And I think that Virginia's been the hardest game on our schedule for a while now since Cincinnati. And 1 week to go from the triple option to a pass-heavy air raid attack that Virginia's going to run is going to be very difficult. Hopefully Kyle Hamilton is ready, but we'll have to see. We're not going to risk his future for a meaningless game against the Cavaliers at this point. Any players that stand out to you, Jake? I know we talked a lot about the system. Is there somebody that you're worried about in particular?
I think I understand we're going to talk about the running backs, we're going to talk about their linebackers, but I think we got to talk about Levitai and the quarterback, how he can do it on the ground and passing. I think there is definitely something to be said that he can throw the ball when necessary. A beautiful play on your screen right there. That is just a flea flicker. That's not on a. That's very
Navy
not
pulling out the deep playbook.
Exactly. What's not on a Navy playbook year in year out. But I think it shows to Levitai and what he can do. And I think just saying that Navy is a running team and they always have been and they will be. I think it's an old-fashioned way. And I think we need to look at the horizons that Levitai is a good quarterback and that he should be respected as one.
He can throw the ball, but the question is, will they let him throw the ball? JJ,
true.
what are you worried about?
Let Levitai cook is the new rallying cry of NDTV, or I guess maybe after this week in can be. But, let's go back to the running backs here. I know you said that's kind of an old head take, but realistically, it's going to be the running backs that are going to be getting the ball a lot. Isaac Ruiz, he doesn't pop off the stat sheet as a player that's, dominant, but he is going to get a lot of the carries there. A nice, hard run. This is another goal line option right there. They give it to the fullback. They power in. It's a very, traditional system in that sense. It's just a matter of will they dial up any of Levitai. But if they're not, which, looking at how their games have gone this season, it's unlikely they will be using him in any significant manner. Isaac Ruiz is the guy that you're going to want to watch at fullback, who's probably going to be getting the bulk of that power, hard carry into the just looking to pounding away at that Notre Dame defensive line, make them work for every yard they get.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think both those guys are going to play a big factor in this game. But at the end of the day, I'm not too worried about any one player in particular because I feel like this Navy team plays exactly like you would expect a military academy to play, in which they're part of the team. They're not an individual. They share the wealth amongst all their players because it's a part of the system. Bo Schembechler would be beside himself. He would love it. It's all about the team up in Annapolis. They love running the ball, but they're frankly just not very good at it. They're 14th in the country in rushing offense, but at the same time, they're only 93rd in yards per carry. Simply because they don't throw the ball, they're going to rack up those rushing yards, but they do so at such an inefficient clip that it oftentimes leads them to lackluster results at the end of the day. And you've seen this a lot in some of the games that we've looked at them in the past. I look at the Memphis game in particular they played this year. Memphis, they ain't no good. Come on, they had that one breakout season a couple while ago, and their defense ain't no good either. But they only allowed 17 points against Navy and 241 total yards, 200 of which came on the ground. And I think that if you're only able to get 200 ground yards the entire game, you're going to struggle a bit then. And at the same time, that Navy defense gave up way too many big plays without making any big plays as well. Eddie Lewis, he had a 74-yard reception. Calvin Austin, a 69-yard touchdown run. They're very prone to making, these big mistakes. And with the, coming out of these big playmakers on Notre Dame, we talk about, Kyron Williams with some of his big runs last week. We talk about Lorenzo Styles, Kevin Austin Jr. still in your back pocket if you need them. I think that with Navy's defense being as porous as they are, 99th in the country in yards per play, 112th in yards per carry, 93rd in scoring, 101st in tackles for loss, they just simply can't get it done. They're going to give up the big plays, and they're not going to get the takeaways they need to stay in the game. Do you guys have, any games in particular you just want to point out real quick?
I think Tulsa was a really big game. They're coming off it, took grit, took a bunch of energy out of them. I think it's a big game showing their season thus far.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati's an interesting one to look at. Cincinnati, as we've said a million times on the show, a good team, and Navy played them close. So
number 4 team, maybe.
Yeah, a number 4 team. Navy played them close. So we got to give them some respect on that front. They can keep a good team close.
That's very fair. So I know you guys a little cautious, but still optimistic. Jake, final score prediction.
34-14. Notre Dame's going to get it done, no doubt in my mind. The defense is going to get pushed around a little bit. They're going to allow 2 touchdowns to come off a big run. I think we talked about it. Without Hamilton in the backfield, it's going to be a little shaky at times in that first half. I think both those touchdowns are going to come in the first half. And then I think we're going to shut them out for the rest of the game, but 34-14.
As much as I'd love to talk about Notre Dame dominating this game and just putting on a show, I don't see it happening. It's going to be a blustery, 35-degree day, 40-degree day, and I think it's going to be an ugly but never realistically in doubt kind of 27-17 Notre Dame win. The kind of game that you don't really remember after 3 seasons or after 1 season, really.
Mm-hmm. I might be sipping too much of the green Kool-Aid at the tailgates, but I'm telling you, I am high on this Irish team this weekend, man. I'm telling you, this Navy, offensive line, defensive line, not going to be able to do a thing against our big boys. Joe Alt, 6'8", 305. Those 5'10" defensive linemen aren't going to be able to do a thing against them. Jack Cohn's going to have a perfect pocket, give him plenty of time to hit up Lorenzo Styles, to hit up Braden Lindsey for these big touchdown plays. I think that Navy is exactly who we thought they were. They're just not that good. We play them out of respect for the tradition, out of the gratefulness to the Naval Academy for what they did for our school. But frankly, they're not going to be able to come back from behind once we get out in front.
They ain't playing nobody, Paul.
They ain't playing nobody, Paul. We're going to light them up, big plays all day. I want to let the young dogs eat this weekend. I want to see some Prince Colley. I want to see some Xavier Watts. And I want to see some Gabe Rubio. If we're not playing those guys in the second half, I don't think we're in a good position for the future, man. I want to see these guys carry us up strong. 42-17, Notre Dame. Big win for the Irish. Big win for the young guys. We're coming for the title next year, baby. This is Shamrock Sports.